We got comic books and comics news, comics insights and reviews, comics girls and comics dudes, sipping on some freshly brewed. Cause it's comics and coffee, starting your day out the nerdy way. Comics and coffee, starting your day out the nerdy way.
Hello, everybody. It is May 30th, 2014, and you are listening to Comics and Coffee, starting your day out the nerdy way. I am your host, Bobby Shortle, and I'm here with Mara Wood.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mara. How are you?
I'm doing very good. It's summer vacation for me, so I've just been hanging around the house watching Veronica Mars.
Nice. Sounds
For the
good.
first time.
Really?
Yeah.
How are you enjoying it so far?
I love it. Almost makes me want to go back to high school.
Almost. Yeah, almost. So I'm guessing you haven't seen the movie yet, then?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm going to hold off on it.
Well, I think you'll enjoy the movie when we get to it. How far are you into the show?
I'm like halfway through season 2.
Okay.
So making pretty good progress. Hopefully be done by the end of the weekend.
How good is that first season, huh?
Yeah.
It's amazing. The first season is pretty amazing. So what are you drinking there, Mara?
Coffee.
Oh, you're a coffee this time, no tea.
Yeah, because it's summer vacation, I have time to sit down and drink some coffee and, not run around with my head cut off. So I'm definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, I have a wedding today to shoot, but it's not until later. I don't have to leave my house until 3, so I'm also not. Usually with the show, I'm basically rushing to get it started and then rushing to get it finished so that I can basically run out the door.
Yeah.
But not today. Not today.
Hooray!
Today we actually have time. So this is our second week in a row doing this, Mara. It's pretty crazy that we're able to get this done 2 weeks in a row, which is, I think it's been a while since we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
So, it's
been a long time.
Yeah. But being that it's 2 weeks in a row and being that it's really funny. So last week we talked about the David Goyer stuff, right? And I was like, oh, we're pretty current on news. We're doing a pretty good job. And then literally a couple of hours after we recorded this show, which the point of the show is to be current on news so the other show doesn't have to be, the news broke that Edgar Wright was no longer directing Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of an effort to stay as positive as possible on Talking Comics, because we had a lot to get through this past week. We reviewed X-Men, and we interviewed Anthony Johnston, the guy who writes The Fuse and Umbrel.
Yeah.
It was kind of a big show, and so I didn't want to spend too much time talking about the negative.
Mm-hmm.
But we put out the call for questions this morning, and kind of 2 people wrote in and said that they wanted to know our thoughts on Edgar Wright leaving Ant-Man. And we all know Mara is the movie expert. Mara, do you have any opinions about Edgar Wright? Have you seen other Edgar Wright movies like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, stuff like that?
I have not seen any of his other movies.
Okay.
I do, from my standpoint, I don't watch a movie based on the director, except for maybe Joss Whedon. That's about as much of a directorial awareness that I have.
Mm.
So the news about him leaving, it's not, for me, it's not as sad as you see his work, but it's, why did he leave?
Mm-hmm.
What was going on that this dude left a Marvel movie, which typically do pretty well. I mean,
right, yes.
you're guaranteed to get, a nice little profit off of it. What was so bad about it? What was so bad that was going on to make him leave?
Mm-hmm.
And how's that going to affect the film in the future?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most high-profile one of these happening to Marvel, but it's definitely not the first. Later in the process than even this, when for Thor 2, the original director dropped out and was replaced by Alan Taylor, who the Game of Thrones director. So it happened to them before, and it's happened to them in negotiations, and it's happened to them in a lot of ways for other reasons, but we don't know the exactness of what's going on with Edgar Wright and why he left. But the general feeling is that, and there's a story in Latino Review and a couple of other stories that other sites ran, that basically at a certain point, Disney and Marvel were not liking the direction or the vision in which Edgar Wright was taking the character. And Edgar Wright, being an artist and being someone with, belief in his own work, and I think a belief in a project he's been working on for nearly a decade, rather than do their rewritten version that he felt watered down what he was trying to do, he walked off the project. I think that it's easy to now think that, it's easy first to side with Edgar Wright, because why wouldn't you? He's the individual over the giant multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation that is making this movie. But I think that, look, I love Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright's movie are some of my favorite movies in the entire world. Shaun of the Dead is maybe one of my favorite movies of all time. I like Edgar Wright movies more than I like Marvel movies. But
whoa.
Yes. But at this point, all this means to me is, he's not directing Ant-Man, which sucks, because I wanted to see what he was going to do with that character and with the visual dynamics of an Ant-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
But all this means is he gets to go off and do something original of his own.
Yeah.
So to me, that's silver lining to this. I think that, does this mean something bigger for Marvel? Does it mean something like they're getting scared, they're bearing down, they're getting worried that they're not going to keep up the success they've gotten, and is that fly in the face of what they've done in the past, which is to be very, very forward-thinking, and that's part of the reason why they are so successful. The thing I'll say about Marvel Studios is that they have a track record of wanting everyone to fall in line with the vision in which they are sculpting their entire universe out of. They generally hire directors who are able to go along with the vision, talented people who buy into what Marvel is trying to do. I said this a couple times on Twitter, but the guys who made Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is most likely, not most likely, but in some people's opinion, the best Marvel movie made.
Yeah, it is.
Directed You, Me, and Dupree before they directed, which is an awful movie with Owen Wilson, before they directed Captain America: Winter Soldier, as well as a lot of really good TV shows, to be fair. But, you do not need someone someone who has an amazing vision and who's been an amazing director thus far. You just don't. Marvel has proven that that's not what you need. You just need someone who buys into their beliefs and buys into the characters and wants the characters to thrive. Now, who knows? I mean, there's all these rumors that of who's going to take over, and there's rumor that James Gunn, who's directing Guardians, might take over, but that James Gunn kind of refuted that on Twitter. I think that Marvel's going to pick somebody, and it's going to be somebody you probably don't know or you know very little about, and the movie might still end up being fantastic. I hate talking about it too much because we don't know what happened, but James Gunn wrote something interesting, though. He wrote, it was like having two people that you love separately being in a relationship that just doesn't work. Okay. You have two friends and they start dating each other, and you love both of them individually, but as a couple, they're just horrible. And he said that's what it was kind of like with Edgar and Marvel, that they just didn't jive in that way. I don't know, Mauro. I mean, like you said, like the reasons why he left. Are you worried at all that Marvel would be kind of, I think, watering down their movies from here on out?
I don't know about watering down, because, like you said, they have a vision for their whole universe. and I am totally buying into that vision. I am 100% there for it. I think they're doing a good job with it. I think that they're smart enough to know when one movie won't fit in with the overall picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to trust them for that blindly. Marvel gets what it wants.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's okay because I'm getting what I want to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the call to them being safe is a little bit premature, considering the week before this news, they just released the last trailer for a movie with a giant talking tree.
And it was a great trailer.
Yeah, it's true. And a raccoon that kills people. So I think that it's too early to say that they're kind of losing their way. It didn't help also that on the same day it was announced that Drew Goddard, who is a Joss Whedon alum and someone who he co-wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods, he was supposed to run Daredevil, and he walked off of Daredevil as well. But he walked off because he's directing the Sinister Six for Sony. So there's not a lot of...
That's a real thing?
What?
That's a thing now?
It's a thing. It's a freaking thing. Which, who knows how that's going to be. And movies about villains, I don't know. I do not know what that's going to be. But
who are you going to root for? Who are you going to root for in a villain movie?
But I think that's why he left. And also they cast Daredevil as well. We talked about this a little bit on the Talking Comics podcast. But Charlie Cox, who was in Stardust and Boardwalk Empire, is playing Daredevil for Marvel. So we'll see what happens with that stuff. But
kind of cute. I don't know how else I can contribute to that.
It's an unfortunate series of events for Marvel, but hopefully this ends with a great Ant-Man movie. Like you said, their movies really aren't about the directors. This was having Edgar Wright as a draw for this movie is an outlier for them, and now they just kind of go back to their regular stuff. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah.
But the thing I really want to talk about, Mara, we talked a little bit last week, and you posted it up on Monday. Your Manga Mondays about All You Need Is Kill.
Oh yeah.
Which is being adapted into a movie with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt called Edge of Tomorrow. If you guys follow, fellow Talking Comics contributor Stephanie Cook on Twitter, she was there last night at the premiere in Toronto. Got to see Tom Cruise. And she saw the movie and she tweeted out some early impressions, and they were very, very, very positive.
Oh, good. I was worried because I like this book a lot. I'm wondering what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Is it going to suck?
Apparently not. Apparently it's pretty awesome. Stephanie said in her tweet that she liked it more than Pacific Rim. So.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So, my question to you, Mara, is actually I'm very interested in checking out the manga, both off your article and just the idea of the movie. Give us a quick pitch on what the manga is about. Okay. And what you're kind of hoping for from the movie.
Okay. So first off, I'm trying to pull up because I don't remember the author's name. I mean, I know vaguely the author's name. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing it semi-right. But All You Need Is Kill started out as a novel and then made its way into other mediums.
Okay.
So the novel, which my internet's going so slow, I just want to... Oh, there it is. I'm actually pulling up the article I wrote on Talking Comics last Monday.
Which all of you guys should check out because it's awesome.
I mean, I'm having a lot of fun with it already. The first one was Sailor Moon, and now All You Need Is Kill. But basically, the novel is a short, quick, action-packed sci-fi military science kind of book about this soldier who's in this war against an invading alien force. Now, don't get freaked out by that. The author doesn't spend a lot of time focused on the aliens. It's more about this soldier and his experience in this war.
Mara, I'm guessing that people are listening to a live comic book morning show. The idea of aliens in a story probably isn't going to freak them out.
They're probably okay with it.
Yeah.
No, I had to explain this to my father-in-law, where I was like, it's a good book, don't don't dismiss it because of aliens. But anyway, he goes into his first battle. He's wearing this metal suit that, kind of an exoskeleton thing. He's got pile drivers and white rifles and stuff, and he's trying to get these aliens, and he dies in like no time at all.
Mm.
And then right after he dies, he wakes up and he's in his bunk, and he's sitting there thinking like, what the heck? What's going on? And then the events of the past 30 hours start repeating themselves. He's getting the same questions from everyone around him. He's going through the same training every day, and he's meeting the same people. All these events are happening, and then he starts to wonder like, what's going on? And so that's kind of the basic premise of it. Is he's going into battle constantly. Every time he dies, he gets reset.
Okay.
And part of the appeal to this particular novel is that he's using that time to make himself more powerful and better, because he's having, if he thinks if he can carry the memory through this loop, he can carry any physical alterations he makes as far as getting stronger. And then another appeal to this particular story is the female lead, the one that Emily Blunt plays, Rita Baratsky. She is probably humanity's best hope against the alien force. She's this tiny little thing who goes on the battlefield and just kicks ass, like none other. People are amazed by her, and kind of how she plays into the story and what she knows about what. I don't know what they call him in the movie. I know they don't call him Kiji.
Which would be weird if it was Tom Cruise and they called him that.
Yeah, because the main character is Japanese. It's
right,
a Japanese novel.
Yeah.
The main girl is American, from because everyone in the world has to band together.
Mm-hmm.
I think they call him like Cage or Gage or something.
Okay.
Something like that. So that's the novel. There's a graphic novel version of it that an imprint of Viz put out not too long ago. And in my column, I talk about how it's really disappointing to read after reading the book, because it has much fewer details and character development. It's kind of like, wham, bam, let's go through this and get to the end as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm. But
right now, in Weekly Shonen Jump, which I don't know, I guess I should back up and explain what Weekly Shonen Jump is.
Yes, you should.
In Japan, manga is published weekly. So let's say you're into Bleach, you're going to get a new issue of Bleach every single week.
Okay.
Which is pretty awesome. It's a lot easier to follow a storyline when you're getting it every week instead of once a month. And then a lot of times manga magazines take 5 or 6 of these series and put them together into a book. So you're getting a magazine once a week that has 5 or 6 different manga stories.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. I mean, just think about like getting a weekly magazine full of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, and getting that once a week all together.
Like Batman Eternal.
Yeah, for like $5. And we don't really see that in America because they have to do the translation and importing and everything like that. But what this does is they've taken all of that and done it digitally. So you get it, I believe, a week later than Japan, and it's all online. So you pay $25 for a full year, and every week you're getting new manga. So in Weekly Shonen Jump, their online digital manga magazine, they're doing a manga version of All You Need Is Kill by Obata. I think that's his last name. But the thing about this particular version is that it is fantastic. And I am so excited for it to be collected and published in a full series to read, because he's really, captured on like the horror of it. Every day watching all your comrades die, watching you die, knowing how you died, knowing what killed you, and then having to go back into that battle and do it again. He's really done a good job visualizing that in the manga format. He's done a fantastic job with the character development and the arc, and how Kiji has just changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the manga version. I think, trying to figure out when.
So you can't get the manga version right now.
Not right now.
Gotcha.
June 19th is when you can get it digitally. So you
Okay.
can get the full story digitally on June 19th. And that's the same day release as Japan. So that's pretty cool. I think it'll be November when the print omnibus of it comes out.
Okay.
But you can get the full story June 19th from vizmanga.com, which I'm really excited about because it was a great story.
Cool. Interesting. So, are you excited about Edge of Tomorrow?
I am. I'm wondering like why they call it Edge of Tomorrow instead of All You Need Is Kill. I mean, probably it sounds cooler.
Yeah, I mean, it was called All You Need Is Kill for a while, and they changed the name. I don't know exactly when they changed it, but when they were casting the movie and when they were going to production, and even I don't think we ever saw a trailer with that title, but at a certain point they decided to change it. But it was called All You Need Is Kill for a while.
Yeah, which every time I say it, I think of All You Need Is Love, and then that song goes through my head as I'm reading it.
I think that's kind of the reason that's called that.
Yeah,
that
makes perfect sense. But I was surprised by it. I was surprised by how good it is, both the novel and the manga, not the graphic novel so much. I'm a little bit sad that the manga collected digitally will be after the movie.
Right. Me too, because I was actually looking forward to reading it.
Yeah.
Before I saw the.
I believe that the first issue of it appeared in Shonen Jump back in like January or February. So they've been putting it, in weekly since then, and it's almost done. I haven't read this week's issue yet, so I don't know if they've completed it yet or not. Mm-hmm. But theoretically, if you have a subscription to Weekly Shonen Jump, you'll get the full story right before the movie begins.
Right.
Theaters.
And so you recommend the book to people though?
Yeah, actually, I left it with my father-in-law this weekend. And I caught him reading it, and I was like, "It's got aliens in it. Beware. Not just military fiction." But I think a lot of people will enjoy it. I mean, the book I had was only 266 pages.
Right.
And it's a fairly quick read, but with a nice payoff.
Cool. So, it really addresses kind of those heavier issues, like about what it means to be coming back like that and dealing with the death of your friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean the trauma this guy is going through. I mean, first off, you wake up knowing that the last thing you saw was something going through your head, or the worst, or when he doesn't die immediately, but when he's laying on the battlefield bleeding out, and then dies, and then comes back, and it's like, that was awful.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
I don't know if they're going to address it in the movie, but there's a certain point where Keiji is thinking like, I've got to figure out a way to get out of this. I've got to figure out a way to escape. I can't go through this every single day. So I really hope that they go into that. I mean, I'm sure they're going to go into that trauma of reliving the same battle, knowing the same outcome every time. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that seems pretty rough. It does. It's funny when you describe like the what he goes through. It almost sounds like a video game.
That's the author. I believe in like an afterword he talked about because here's the thing with video games: when you die, you know what kills you, and then you can avoid it the next time.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing in the book.
Right.
Like that's the one that killed me. It's gonna go left or it's gonna go right, and I can dodge it. But he finds out that when he dodges it, one of his buddies dies.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like, you get a little hardened by it, and I think that's what they're trying to show in the story. This character growing in that way, but he definitely. I mean, the author admits to pulling themes from video games,
right?
But just applying it to real life and seeing the real horror of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Stephanie's quick, like a little blurb about it, got me excited, and yeah, I think it looks really, really cool. I didn't know much about it when I heard about it, and actually the title, which I don't think is cooler, I think it's way worse, just because it's very generic. You know, I think actually on Talking Movies, one of the panelists there said it sounded like, you know, the name of like a corporate presentation or something.
I can understand why they went with it, because if you think about it, he's trying to get to the next day, but he keeps going back. So he's like edge of tomorrow, but he's really going back 2 days before. But All You Need Is Kill, I think, is a little bit more memorable.
It definitely is. The only thing about All You Need Is Kill that I think works against it is that it sounds like a joke.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like it's a big dumb action movie that that would come out in one of those months where big movies don't come out, and it would be, you know, really silly and really overly violent. That when I hear All You Need Is Kill, that's what I think about.
Yeah. It fits well as a manga title, though. Because if you're going through like a magazine and you're like, oh man, this one's gonna be awesome, and it is.
Very, very cool. So, recommend the novel. Don't necessarily recommend the graphic novel.
Not really.
But the manga is great.
It's gonna be. I mean, it's fantastic. Like I said, it's on its way wrapping up, because it's based on the novel. There's not a wasted moment in it.
Right.
Like everything that's happening in the manga is working its way towards the end. For a lot of people, I mean, the Dragon Ball Z generation, we know all about time wasting. We know that it takes 5 episodes to get through one battle, and sometimes the same thing in manga, where they're dragging their feet or they're putting filler issues in. But that's not the case with this one, because it is based on a finished work and it's a limited series. So it's big payoff.
Awesome. Well, it sounds awesome. Other than manga, Mara, have you been reading anything yet this week?
I read Batgirl Volume 4.
Yes, you reviewed it for the site.
Yeah, yesterday. Because I've been trade waiting Batgirl, and I will say the most disappointing thing about this volume is that it didn't include the last issue of the arc.
Really?
Really, like issue
That's
26,
weird.
which wraps up the arc, isn't in this volume.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's really strange.
And I understand, because it had like six issues in it, but because they included that stupid Villains Month issue, it would be too high. Like the price would be beyond what people normally pay for a trade to include the last arc of this, or last issue of this arc.
Well, that is just weird.
Like, that's the stupidest decision y'all ever made.
Yeah.
For people who trade wait, we have to wait like another 6 or 7 months.
It just doesn't make sense, even just for like flow of your story. I mean, they've had trouble with that anyway. That book has been interrupted several times.
Yeah, which is why I trade waited, because I'm like, I don't care about Zero Year. I don't care about Gothtopia. I don't care about Forever Evil. I just want the Batgirl story.
Right.
The idea that trade waiting would get me just the Batgirl story, but not all of it.
Yeah. So this is the Most Wanted arc, right? That was.
Yeah, the wanted one. Because after she kills her brother, this isn't spoilers because this happened so long ago now.
It's status quo. That's what we always say about this stuff. It's status quo.
Yeah. Commissioner Gordon is like, I know Batgirl killed my son. I'm going to go after her. And she's like, hi, Dad. So she's dealing with that, and also with the guilt of killing her brother, which I brought up in the review. If you think about it, Batman refuses to kill the Joker, who is the most psychotic villain they've ever encountered. And can you imagine the guilt being associated with Batman and then killing your brother? If Batman doesn't kill this villain, what right do I have to kill this guy?
Right, yeah.
There's some of that, lost little puppy feeling. But yeah, you get to the end, you're like, I guess I'll figure out what happens later.
Yeah, I guess. And then when you get in a year, you'll know what happens, Mara.
Yeah, and when you get the next trade, you have one issue of one arc, and then it dives immediately into another.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are doing over there.
It's strange that they did like that. I mean, so they included the Villains Month issue.
Yes, the Dark Knight Ventriloquist.
Yeah, which is funny because it wasn't even a Batgirl issue.
No.
So they included that, and did they include like the 0 year thing?
They did include a 0 year issue.
Okay.
So they had the issues with the ventriloquist, which I think was right before the Wanted arc, or like the early part of it, and then more about the Wanted arc, and then the ventriloquist issue from Dark Knight, and then it ended on Zero Year.
Weird. Very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad because I like Batgirl, I like Gail Simone, but it's just strange. Like somebody made that decision somewhere.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we wanted.
I think it's it must just because like we put out this grouping of issues in this time frame. We have to get it out by this day.
Yeah.
Send it to the printer by this day. Maybe that last issue wasn't out.
Which would make sense because Batgirl was interrupted so often.
Yeah, so that's probably why it happened. But it's just a weird decision to make to not include the end of an arc in a trade, which is why people buy trades, in the first place. Strange. It's a shame too, because I mean, even that the 0 year issue is actually a pretty good issue of the book. Not written by Gail Simone, written by Mark V. Bennett. But yeah, it was weird how they divide up that arc, and they're kind of doing it now too, even with a lot of other stuff going on at the same time. Yeah. Anything else did you read this week?
Actually, this series doesn't get out until June 3rd, but it's a manga called Millennium Snow. There's a new volume of it. The interesting thing about this series is it was published like 7 years ago. Like the first two, this is collected into one volume. First two were published about 7 years ago, and then the author-artist took a 7-year break to do Iran High School Host Club. And now that she's done with all of that manga, she's got time on her hands now. She's coming back to finish the story. So this is the third volume in the series, published for the first time 7 or more years later. It's kind of interesting because you see how the writing and art style has changed over that time period because the creator was also working on a hugely successful manga series in between. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's called Millennium Snow, and it's a paranormal romance story about a girl with a heart condition who could die any day now, and a vampire.
All right.
So, that's complete opposite end of the spectrum of Batgirl, but it was cool. Did you read anything cool?
Yeah, I read a couple things. I read we had a couple Image #1s this week. We had Cowl and Trees both came out. Warren Ellis obviously wrote Trees, art by Jason Howard. Cool premise. This idea that these giant, like monolithic tree-like spaceships, basically that's what they are, land in the world, and they just kind of like implant themselves and crush like cities, and but then they just sit there, and there's not really nothing really comes out of them, and there's not really an alien invasion. It's just the whole point is that they showed up, and they didn't even care that we were here. It wasn't like they came to exterminate us. It wasn't like that. It was just they didn't care. They're just here, and that's what they were here to do. Yep. And this is how and how they affected the world and stuff like that. It was a cool premise. Suitably weird because it's Warren Ellis. It was mostly setting up characters and the world. Not a ton happens in the issue, but it definitely makes me want to see what happens next. Cowl is an interesting premise. It's sort of got a little like that Watchmen idea or that the Incredibles idea where there is like a legalized group of superheroes, and we're getting to the point where they're not sure if they've eliminated their major villain competition, and now the government of Chicago, the city of Chicago is wondering, are they still necessary? Are they going to be like made illegal or taken out or lose their funding because they're like a government-funded superhero organization? I don't know where it's going to go. The one thing I'll say about it was a little bit tricky to track the characters in the first issue because there's a lot of them going on.
That's saying a lot for a first issue.
Yeah, and they have backstories and motivations that are kind of described in text at the beginning, but not really. I don't know if it's laid out as well in the issue. The issue is good, but also the art by Rod Rice is very moody and very sometimes minimalist, and it has more of that like I don't know how to explain it. Sometimes it looks like Fraser Irving art, but it's because of the eccentricities of the art, sometimes it's even tougher to follow the characters that are going on.
Yeah.
So I read that. Batman, of course, Batman. But the thing I was really excited about that I caught up on this week was the Winter Soldier, The Bitter March, which is Rick Remender.
Oh, a new issue that came out.
Yeah, a new issue that came out, and I actually hadn't read issue 3 yet, which came out last month.
Mm-hmm.
So I read both of them this morning, actually, and I was loving the first 2 issues. The time period, the very like James Bondish nature, the gadgets, all that stuff is awesome. And these 2 issues were equally as awesome. Just changed up a little bit the status quo in the series. The villain that they introduced, which I can't remember his name right now.
I can't remember either.
It's like a Hydra psychic who can just bring out your worst fears in you. And the stuff that he does is really, really disturbing. The way he looks is really, really disturbing. It's just a really, really great series. It's limited. I think it's 5 issues. I think there's one more issue after this. But I think Rick Remender over the last few months with this and Black Science and Deadly Class has really just been killing it as far as writing goes. He's got that new series Low coming out very soon as well, which if it wasn't for The Wicked and the Divine would probably be my most looked after series. But
are you excited about that?
I'm so excited about The Wicked and the Divine.
It's like yay, they're back together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they weren't apart for very long. But it's still exciting to see both their names on a book on stands.
Yeah, and it's exciting because they get to look. I love Young Avengers. Young Avengers was awesome.
Yeah.
But it's still obviously a Marvel book, and there's still some constraints about what they're doing there. The fact that here they get to just do whatever the hell they want. It's like pure them. Well, it's going to be really, really great. I can't wait to see what they put together with that, and we don't have to wait very long.
No. Did you see Kieran Gillen's how to pre-order comic books post?
Yeah, it was funny.
Oh my gosh, made me love him even more. It's like, this is perfect.
It's really funny because I know him so well as a comic book writer, but I listen to a lot of video game podcasts, and he apparently, which I didn't know this, and people are gonna think, of course, he was like a very, really well-renowned video game journalist before he was a comic book writer.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and people talk about him like very reverently on these video game podcasts. They're like, well, when Kieran Gillen wrote about it, so, and it's just so funny to hear the crossover between the 2 worlds. So yeah, that's all I got for this week. If you guys want to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us at Talking Comics on Twitter, Facebook.com/TalkingComics, or podcast at TalkingComicBooks.com. My Twitter is at Bobby Shortle. And Mara?
At Mara.
Any big plans for the weekend?
A little bit of Veronica Mars. Mario Kart comes out.
Oh yeah, I have it already, Mara.
Oh, you do? Wow.
I downloaded it last night at midnight on the Nintendo eShop.
You are a badass. I think we pre-ordered it, or it's coming in, or we're gonna go pick it up. But my husband and I are like, we're gonna play some Mario Kart tonight.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be awesome. So that's kind of like the biggest weekend plan I have.
Awesome. Yeah,
Is it good?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's Mario Kart, but it's like really, really awesome Mario Kart. So. Yeah,
I think the 64 is awesome. So.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna play some Mario Kart. I'm gonna play some Wolfenstein, The New Order, and I have like a date night with my fiance tomorrow night. We're going out to a restaurant. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend. But we will catch you guys next week. Thank you for joining us on Comics and Coffee. Thank you for starting your day out the nerdy way with us, and have a wonderful weekend.